YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. Ranking defenses for 2023. We're ranking them 32 to 1, so every single defense here. We did the same exact video for offenses. We did it for different units. We ranked players as well. Can't wait to finish up this content. Can't wait for the NFL season, our in-season content. So join us, like, subscribe, to notifications on. Follow us on Twitter, very important. Link pinned in the comments for that. Any other social media or sponsors, Liquid IV, code GOAT. Always pumping out new flavors there. Big fan of their product. Check it out. Again, links pinned in the comments. Hope you can join us for all our content. So ranking defenses 32 to 1, predicting how they'll be this upcoming year. Got the Rams at 32. They have Aaron Donald, so maybe that keeps them from being number 32, but it's pretty rough after that. You know, they have one of the worst secondaries. The linebacker unit's rough to pass rush outside of Aaron Donald. It's all pretty rough. They have a rebuild defense out there is what they have. So they're at 32. 31 Arizona Cardinals. I mean, Gannon's a good defensive coach. They had him. They have Budda Baker. You know, they have some other pieces in there, but a lot of young players going to be playing. Pretty weak, pretty much everywhere there. So they're at 31. They're kind of in a rebuild. 30, the Raiders. They have Max Crosby, who's an absolute stud. After that, you know, what are we going to get from Chandler Jones? Tyree Wilson, a pretty good player, pretty good draft pick. Interior could be better. Linebackers they're pretty thin there. A lot of maybe, you know, how will this guy be? A lot of maybe some upside there. And the secondary is definitely on the weaker side. I guess it helped that they added Marcus Peters. Vikings at 29, who were at the bottom last year. Corners was killing them last year, and technically they get better, even though it's still not a strong group, but they get better at Byron Murphy, who was a pretty good addition. And they do have Brian Flores. The defense was poorly coached. They had Brian Flores, who's actually known as a very, very solid defensive coordinator. You know, just still do they have the talent, you know, there? They might be sneaky in terms of, you know, blitzing defense, and you have Daniil Hunter on the outside. You know, they still got Harrison Smith. So a lot of it with defense is defensive coaching. We find that out every year. That's a big part of it. So maybe adding Flores boosts them up from this spot. The Bears at 28. Yeah, I mean, they struggled last year. You still probably can run a bit on the Bears. It helped that they added Ngakoue for the pass rush. Linebacker unit actually looks pretty solid. The secondary is on the underrated side. You know, I just think they'll struggle to stop the run. They'll struggle to consistently get after the quarterback, even though, again, they did get better with Ngakoue, but they're about to be the worst in football if they didn't add him. But they're at 28, still a young and improving defense. Falcons at 27. You know, they add Jesse Bates, so that should help them. They have A.J. Terrell. You know, they have some players there. The interior defensive line looks better around Grady Jarrett, but yeah, pass rush could be better there. Just, you know, maybe not a ton of firepower. Colts at 26. Seems like they're kind of going downhill, you know, as they lost Eberflus. We'll see how Shaq Leonard's going to be. You know, some concern post-injury there, but he's a hell of a ball player. Good interior defensive line. You know, the edge rushers do need to step up a little bit, but the interior's there. Secondary's on the weaker side as well. Seahawks at 25. They were towards the very bottom last year. They should take a step up this year. Young players getting better. Add Draymond Jones. Add Bobby Wagner. They did give up a lot on the ground last year, but again, those couple players I named should help them. Lions at 24. The first half, I'd say the Lions probably had the worst defense football the first half of the year, and the second half of the year, it was far better than that, like far better than the worst in football. But they did give up a lot of yards, you know, through the air, on the ground. It should get better. It should trend towards where they ended. I wish they focused a little more on the interior defense line for agency. They kind of ignored that, rely on some development. I do like Ali McNeil, but they have young talent everywhere that should help them continue to get better. They do add C.J. Gardner-Johnson in the mix as well. 23, the Texans. Defensive coaching, super important. DeMeco Ryans one of the best in football, so that should help them. The Texans don't look like they have like premier talent anywhere, but they have DeMeco Ryans to call a really good defense. But they do have some sneaky guys that can really step up. You know, rookies right away. Will Anderson in the back end, second-year player. Jalen Petrie, pretty decent at corner. They had Sheldon Rankins in the interior. So, you know, they were really bad stop and run last year. I think they should be a lot better than that. Panthers at 22. Panthers are a team I think about ranking actually a lot higher because you got guys like Brian Burns, J.C. Horn, like top players at their position. Jeremy Chin is a stud player. How is he going to be used, though? It sounds like they're moving around everywhere, you know, so that's a question. I do like Evero as a defensive coach. You know, but outside those star players, some questions. I do like their linebacker unit too, but, you know, what never really was a feature piece of Evero's defense, even though he's a good coordinator. So, how healthy will Horn be? He's missed several games in every single one of his seasons so far. So, Panthers have the potential to be a lot better than this, but I got them at 22 for now. Giants at 21. Very good blitzing defense. Young pass rushers that should continue to get better. They have Dexter Lawrence, who's an absolute stud. They'll give us some big plays through the air here and there. Kind of rely on their stud players, but they are at 21. Next group of teams, the Jags at 20. Stop the run pretty well. Pass rush needs to get better. I think it should step up a little bit. Trayvon Walker, high upside player, should get better. Josh Allen, good player, but been a little underwhelming. Could get better there. Linebacker unit's pretty solid. Devin Lloyd, guy like that, can step up. And then secondary, pretty solid as well. I guess there's nothing about the defense that's like eye-popping, standing out, but pretty balanced group, make plays. Chargers at 19. Love the secondary. They had Eric Kendricks in the linebacker group. Pass rush is solid if they're healthy. That's kind of the question with Bosa and Mack. The interior I don't love. They really struggle to stop the run, so that kind of stops them from being around the top 10. Chiefs at 18. Pass rush, a little bit of a question. Frank Clark, gone. Amenhu, suspended. Karlaftis should be pretty solid. They have Chris Jones in the interior as long as he's still going to be there. Nick Bolton, huge fan of his. Again, secondary, pretty solid. But I got them at 18. The Packers, I thought I would rank a lot higher, but after kind of evaluating, analyzing all these defenses, I ended up with them with 17. But, I love me some Rashawn Garrett if he's healthy. Kenny Clark, linebacker units, duo is pretty solid. Jair Alexander's great. Safety group, definitely on the thin, the weaker side. Interior D-line, will Wyatt step up? Does Kenny Clark have to carry again? So that's kind of the questions with them. But there's a lot of good defenses, so I consider the Packers a good defense. 16, the Bucks. Only problem with the Bucks defense is they might be on the field a ton because I ranked their offense 32nd. So they might be on the field a ton, which means more reps against you, which means you're more tired, which means more reps means more yards, more points. So it's going to be a tough task for the Buccaneers defense, even though it's very solid. I mean, they got pass rushers. Again, they got Barrett coming back. They get interior guys. They stop the run very well. They might even do it even better, adding Greg Gaines on top of Vita Vea. Linebackers are very solid. The secondary is very solid. On paper, they look really, really good. It's going to be on the field a lot. Saints at 15. Maybe not the same as them. We're used to them being top 5. They took a step down last year. I think they'll be a little bit better than they were last year. Like the secondary, like DeMario Davis. Defensive line is actually not as good as what it used to be. So I guess that's a little bit of a question, but they do have ball players there. 14, the Broncos. For the Broncos, they got stars like Surtain and Justin Simmons, but I guess they got good players throughout the secondary as well. Linebacker, okay. Pass rush. Yeah, what are we going to get from Frank Clark, Randy Gregory? How healthy will they be? How much will they produce? Baron Browning looked good last year. He's injured. Interior defensive line, solid. They lost Draymond Jones. So, solid defense. They're always holding teams to, lower amount of points. I think teams were kind of pumping the brakes a little bit, running the ball, running the clock against them last year. That's probably why they didn't score as many points, because the Broncos had, arguably the worst scoring offense in football. But the talented defense, they'll be locked down most weeks, so that'll put them at 14. 13, the Steelers. I don't love their secondary. I love Minkah Fitzpatrick. I don't love the rest of their secondary. Linebacker unit doesn't look super sexy, but they got better. They got better fits for Mike Tomlin's defense. So in the inside linebacker position's better, and the defensive line, we know about the defensive line, is very, very, very good. They do need to stop the run a little better, though. Titans at 12, speaking of stopping the run, is the best team stopping the run in football. Last 2 years, they could very well be it again. Very well coached up there. They have Jeffrey Simmons. They have guys that just stop the run at a very high level. Pass rush pretty solid. They got Harold Landry back, so that should help them. Secondary gave up a bit last year. Pass rush should be better, so that should help them a little bit. They do have a star in Kevin Byard back there. I got them at 12. Again, the run defense, probably the best in football, but passing league. So I think there's 11 better right now. The Ravens, 11. The Ravens are funny. On paper, they don't actually look that great, but they play better than they look on paper. They're physical, pretty sound defense. Bright spots on paper. Roquan Smith, Marlon Humphrey, Hamilton should take a step. Young pass rushers, they want more from interior D-line. They're always good on the interior D-line. Again, they don't look great on paper, but it's probably going to be better than expected. Well-coached defense. Got them at 11. On to the top 10. Patriots at 10. Bill Belichick, well-coached defense, but again, we know what they're going to run. They're going to be in man coverage. I think teams are beating man coverage more and more these days. I think it's pretty simple. I think it's because of speed and the arm talent, arm strength of quarterbacks, but Patriots run man coverage as good as about anyone. There's a few teams up there, but maybe a couple. But they get better. Adding Christian Gonzalez. Kyle Duggar is going to take another step up. That's a star in the making. Matthew Judon, the pass rusher. Uche's getting better, even though they don't start him. So it's going to be a very solid defense led by Bill Belichick. So at 10, Washington Commanders at 9. Get really good pressure on the quarterback, really good defensive line, really, really good interior defensive line. Linebacker, always a little bit of a question. Secondary looks pretty solid. It's not the greatest, but it looks pretty solid. Very good safety duo. Bills at 8. They're usually statistically good. I don't know if they're ever as good as this, the stats again, because I think teams as the year goes on, they kind of get figured out a little bit. It's a little bit of a change because Leslie Frazier stepped down at defensive coordinator. They had Leonard Floyd. They get Von Miller back, so that's good. They do lose Tremaine Edmonds. We know the secondary should be pretty solid, so the Bills come in at 8. Really about Von Miller staying healthy, because what they struggle to do towards the end of the year is kind of consistently get after the quarterback. Eagles at 7. I think losing Gannon, going from Gannon to Desai is a little tough. They're very thin at safety and linebacker, like the corners. The pass rush is fantastic. The pass rush keeps them up here. I don't think the secondary is going to play as good as it did under Gannon. Gannon's really good coaching that secondary. 6, I got the Browns, which I guess could be a little bold because they haven't really been here, even though we kind of expected them to be here because of the talent they have. But they switched defensive coordinators. I like Jim Schwartz a lot. They add a lot to their in good spots to their defense as well. Zadarius Smith, Dalvin Tomlinson, Shelby Harris, young players in the secondary at the linebacker position continuing to get better as well. Myles Garrett could have a defensive player type year, of the year type year. So I like the Browns, top 6 here. Top 5, Dolphins come in at 5. If Jalen Ramsey didn't get injured, I'd be considering them in the top 2, 3, maybe 1. They could be 1. So they did get a little bit of a bump down, a little bit of a dip losing Jalen Ramsey, but the secondary is still strong. Linebacker unit was made better with David Long. They already have Jerome Baker, Channing Tindall. Pass rush duo is great. Jalen Phillips is a star in the making. Javon Holland, another star in the making back in the secondary. And then you have the interior defensive line is very, very good. Christian Wilkins, another one. So, they're in consideration for 1 if they have Jalen Ramsey. So that's a tough part. The secondary has to stay healthy. Bengals at 4, extremely well coached. Extremely, extremely well coached. Coaching when it comes to defense is a lot. We've learned that, especially in the playoffs the last couple of years. I think the Bengals have been the best defense in playoffs the last couple of years on top of that. They mix up, they mix it up. They change up their looks. You don't know what coverage they're in pre-snap most of the time. Love that. They have players that could run different coverages in the secondary. Love that. They did lose Jesse Bates. They're so well coached back there. They got versatile guys that can move around. They're going to make guys look better than they are. Nick Scott, Daxton Hill, they're going to make these guys better. Corners, very underrated. Wouzier's back. He was injured last year. Mike Hilton's the best slot corner in football. Unique player. Cam Taylor-Britt's getting better. Linebacker unit's getting better. Logan Wilson, Jermaine Pratt, these guys are getting better and better. It's a very solid linebacker duo. And the defensive line is very, very solid across the board. I mean, you have maybe the very best run stuffer in football on DJ Reader, and you have a very good pass rush group led by Hendrickson and Hubbard. But watch out for Joseph Asai. Watch out for Miles Murphy. BJ Hill's another guy in the interior. Zach Carter's another young guy to watch out for. Very well coached, balanced, versatile defense. So the Bengals come in at 4. I just remember saying, last year, this is, in the playoffs, this is probably the best defense at this time. The year before, I kind of remember thinking Titans, Rams, Bengals. These are the best defense at that time. And then 49ers in there as well last year, but they've been the best in the regular season. Jets at 3, another pretty well-coached defense. Then you have a very, very strong secondary, in my opinion, second best secondary in football. Solid linebacker unit. I guess they could get better at the linebacker unit. I guess they could get better at safety, but solid safety group. Defensive line, I like that it's versatile. It's unique. They can move guys around. They can rotate guys in. They have a star player in Quentin Williams. Will they have something set on the outside? Will they be consistently getting after the quarterback on the outside, though? That's maybe what is keeping them from me being confident of them at number 1, but they're right there. Niners, who kind of consistently been the best defense throughout the regular season and some of the playoffs. I got them at number 2. Very, very strong defensive line, the best in football. They add Kinlaw to that, so that's big time. And they have Nick Bosa at defensive end, who's maybe the best in football. He was last year. Linebacker unit's great. Maybe the best linebacker unit in football probably is. Secondary is pretty solid. Travarius Ward, very solid. Fungus solid. I don't know if the secondary plays as good without Ryans. I'm actually thinking they don't play as good without Ryans. But they're still going to be good. The rest of the defense is good. I got a feeling about the Cowboys being number 1 defense football this year. They get Dan Quinn back somehow. Very, very, very good defensive coordinator, one of the best in football. Then you have that defensive line, Micah Parsons, who's a problem, and he's only getting better. DeMarcus Lawrence is a very good pass rusher, even better run stopper. And they have rotation in terms of the pass rush. Dorrance Armstrong, Sam Williams, guys like that. Interior gets better, adding Mozzie Smith. Is it a whole lot better? Maybe not. Oso Odigizua is getting better as well. Linebacker unit, Parsons going to focus more on it as an edge, which he kind of did last year. It's kind of like 90% to 10%, maybe like 88% if we're being exact, pass rusher. But watch out for some of those young guys. I love the DeMarvion Overshown pick. I love that pick. Damone Clark from LSU, I was very high on him. He just had an injury going into last year, going into the draft. And they already have Leighton Vander Esch. Sneaky linebackers that I listed there. Watch out for couple of those linebackers, and they'll get more creative here. I think it's the best secondary in football. It helps that they have the very best cornerback duo in football. Trevon Diggs is only getting better, maybe the best playmaker in all of football, and then he gets some help to make him better as a lockdown corner, and Stephon Gilmore, who fits their single coverage very, very well and still playing at a high level. So Cowboys, great coaching, great players, a list of players that are getting better, sneaky players that could step up. I think their safeties are pretty underrated too, and Jerron Kearse is a box player, one of the best in football at that position. So I like the Cowboys number one this year. It's kind of been the Niners. Kind of left saying the Bengals might be as we see the playoffs. They're up there. It's because they're so well coached. It's all about coaching in the playoffs. It really is. So those are my defensive rankings. A lot of good ones there. I wouldn't really focus on the number next to them, like what rank they are, because you got to kind of think about which teams are ahead of them. Because there's good defenses kind of ranked in the 20s even. So that's the tough part about this. But there it is. Did this for defenses in this video. Did it for offenses the previous video. We ranked secondaries, offensive line, defensive lines. We ranked players by position, all kinds of rankings, more types of videos coming as we get closer to the season, and in-season content right around the corner. Follow us on Twitter for constant talk about the NFL. Links pinned in the comments for anything you're looking for. That's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.